ever get the feeling like you've been here before? Like you're doing the same thing again and again and again? Like just minutes ago we were doing this?
Yeah.
Does it ever feel like that?
Do you ever feel like there should be movies about that feeling? No.
I mean, they did make a movie called Deja Vu, but I haven't seen it, but I assume it's about that feeling. But let's just do this again and again, and if you haven't got any idea, we're doing movies where the same thing happens over and over and over again.
Welcome to the Last Reviewer podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Eamon. Joining us today is our special guest for the second time, Nick. How you doing?
I'm good.
That's good.
We're back in time again.
Yeah, Nick's the first person who's joined us twice.
Yes, the only person who's joined us twice.
Yeah, well, that's generally
2 times.
First special guest in a little while. We really need to get more special guests. But yeah, there's not really any news.
No,
because we covered it when we recorded the last podcast.
Yeah, this is a special double feature.
So let's just. But
the one piece of news that is relevant is that today, Happy Death Day came out.
It did indeed. For those of you who don't know, that is a slasher film which follows the story of a terrible college person who every time she gets killed by the slasher wakes up at the start of that day.
And we just went and watched it, Eamon and I.
Yes.
This morning this afternoon. It's been a long day. And so what did you think, Eamon?
I thought it was pretty good. When you first told me about it, I thought, that sounds kind of dumb. I saw the trailer, I thought, yeah, that looks alright. Movie started and I was kind of on the fence. But as it went on, it got better and better. It was a pretty fun movie.
Yeah, at the start it seemed like it was going to be all the cliches.
Well, it was.
Yeah, but then they started
They started having fun with them.
Yeah.
It starts off pretty generic, which I feel is kind of the point.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that was...
But yeah, it really gets in the swing of things fairly early on.
It's only 90 minutes long or something, so...
Yeah.
It doesn't take long for things to get going. But yeah, it's often very funny. They do this idea of, she's getting killed so much that she's just kind of used to it. So at one point she just gets stabbed in the guts. She kind of looks down, just kind of like, again.
Yeah, and then looks straight at the killer and then wakes up.
Yeah, there's some pretty inventive kills in there. Not super inventive, but at one point she gets stabbed by a broken bong, beaten with a bat. And eventually she... I guess it's... Do we care about spoilers for this movie?
Yes.
Not major spoilers.
Okay.
So at one point one of her friends gets killed and she knows that if she breaks the loop they'll stay dead. So rather than killing the killer, she kills herself, which is something you don't really get a whole lot in these kind of movies.
Yeah. Yeah, Edge of Tomorrow kind of dealt with that a little bit towards the end. Especially because, if they killed the large monster, then time would reset and they'd have a losing hand again. Speaking of Edge of Tomorrow, that's something we've all seen.
Yes. What do you think about that one, Nick?
Edge of Tomorrow, I liked it. I'd rather see less of Tom Cruise in most movies, but it was alright.
That's fair enough.
I like Tom Cruise. For once I'm not the minority. I love Scientology. Scientology Cruise. But yeah, no, I enjoy that film. It's an interesting one. It kind of gets weird towards the end. They lose their powers, but it still resets, and it's kind of a bit funky.
Yeah. Although I guess that's a part of the genre, really. All the ones I can think of are funky, except Groundhog Day, which is...
Well, speaking of Groundhog Day, I know it's Bill Murray, and that's the extension of my knowledge on that film. People tell me it's good. I've never seen it. I know that both of you have seen it, so enlighten me.
Groundhog Day.
Kind of the movie that started it.
It is, and you can tell based on the others. The others are all very experimental, but Groundhog Day isn't. So he goes to the Bill Murray. I think he's staying in Pakistan. I don't know how to say the name of the place, but the place where they celebrate Groundhog Day.
So it's like a festival.
Yeah. it's a real life festival.
Pretty much what it is like they kind of use it as like they release a groundhog, right? If it runs off, then winter's going to be over, and if it runs back into the cage, then winter's going to go for a bit longer.
Okay.
It's a stupid festival, but
Yeah. It's just a small town, country American thing. And so that's kind of the setting of it, and that's where the name comes from.
Yeah.
And so I think he's trying to, in some of these, or in most of these, there's a goal. In Edge of Tomorrow, they're trying to kill the aliens. In Happy Death Day, she's trying to discover her killer. In this one, he's trying to fix his love life. It's a rom-com.
Okay.
And so you've got the same thing that all these have, an event, events as they walk through.
Yeah.
He steps in a puddle and learns to avoid it later on. But yeah, it just moves through his emotions of this entire concept. At first he's incredibly confused, then he tries killing himself a bunch of times. He drives a car off a cliff at one point, and that's a dramatic scene that sticks with you.
Yeah.
And, as he goes on, it's like in Death Day, where she becomes more confident, and...
Does he end up walking naked through the streets?
No.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, I watched the trailer for that one.
Yeah.
She's walking naked for some reason.
Because she just doesn't care anymore.
Yeah, everyone's going to forget it anyway, right?
Yeah. Unless, of course, that's the day she succeeds.
Yeah, that'd be funny as.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually he masters his stupid, unlikable self, and learns how to win the woman over and becomes a classy person. Basically, Happy Death Day without the killer and with more love.
Yeah.
And more Bill Murray just being Bill Murray.
That's true.
Yeah, so in the other films, it's death that resets it, generally speaking. What resets it in this?
Death resets it for sure.
Yeah.
But I think also going to sleep, like, he just wakes up and it's the same day.
Okay. So there's nothing really behind it, per se.
I think it's the same Disney
kind of
magic behind, like, Freaky Friday and all of that.
Yeah.
The unexplained magic that invaded all the 80s movies.
Yeah, like Death Day.
Yeah, I guess.
It just happens.
Yeah.
Because. Fair enough.
What were you going to say, Nick?
Or maybe it's just because for some reason the director just really liked...
Oh, yeah, the song
what was it? I Got You, Babe.
Yeah, the alarm clock song.
Maybe he's just really a fan. Yeah.
They actually play that very same trope in Happy Death Day.
Yeah.
Every morning when she wakes up, her phone rings and it's singing "It's Your Birthday" or something.
Which has a beautiful payoff.
Yeah.
Not going to spoil anything, but that's probably one of my favourite parts of the film is the payoff to that.
Yeah.
Surprisingly funny.
So yeah, Happy Death Day really is Groundhog Day with a killer.
Groundhog Day meets Halloween.
Yeah.
I can easily recommend that film.
Oh yeah. Happy Death Day is far better than Groundhog Day, I would say.
Yeah. Well, one of my favourites is Source Code.
It's one of my all-time favourite movies.
Yes, it's a very good movie. Again, it's kind of got more of that... From what you're describing, Groundhog Day doesn't really have any drive in terms of he's only doing it so that he doesn't keep resetting.
Yeah, well, also it's fixing him because he's a bastard.
Yeah, but in terms of his reasoning to do it, at least from the start.
Yeah, he doesn't have a mission, just win the girl.
Whereas in, like, Source Code, Edge of Tomorrow, Death Day, it's like, we need to accomplish this in order to progress. And I feel like Source Code has the best one of those, in which it's like a terrorist attack, and the whole idea is it's all taking place essentially in a simulation, which kind of gets blurred at the end. It's a little bit weird, but as far as, Jake Gyllenhaal, who is... I'm just going to spoil it, because, it's an old movie now. He's basically a corpse, like organs and a brain inside a vat. And he thinks he's real, and eventually it's unearthed that. So there's kind of like these parallel storylines. His mind on the train inhabiting this other guy's body, trying to find a bomber. while at the same time, whenever he's not doing that, he's trying to find out what's happening within the real world. I think that's really good. The director of that has done another movie called Moon, which is not a time warp, but it's about clones. It's very good, and it has that same thing of every time he wakes up, the song that plays is "I Am the One and Only," which is kind of ironic considering he finds out later in the film that he is like the 42nd clone or something.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's a very good movie as well.
Have you seen have you seen Source Code, Nick?
I haven't, although when you guys were explaining Death Day, it just reminded me of this movie. I think it's called like Detention. It's got like Dane Cook and some other people in it. And pretty much it's not really like, it was kind of like a time travel like movie, right? Like there's a killer and they keep trying to kill these people, right? They're like all these kids in detention. And like pretty much what it is they have to go back in time to stop the killer like coming to kill them all. And so the whole movie is just them going back and forth between times, and it kind of reminded me of...
So they're like going back...
Explaining it.
That sounds kind of funky. I'm just looking at it now. Yeah.
Yeah, like what it was... I remember one bit was like they went back to the 90s because there was like this girl, she was acting weird, and then they find out... It's not really a big spoiler, but they find out that like the girl who's acting weird, she somehow switched consciousness with her mother.
I think
back in the 90s.
I don't know if I'm reading about the same movie then. They haven't said anything about plot time travel. They just think they're trapped in the room with someone. Detention 2011 with Josh Hutcherson from the Hunger Games. It may just be the plot description that I'm reading that's bad, because like the tagline is "Cancel your future," which would suggest time travel.
It's got like Dane Cook as like the principal, which he dies, and I'm like, oh sweet, thank God.
Yep, he's in it, so I assume it's the same movie. I just imagine the description is bad. But yeah, that sounds kind of interesting. Kind of like a butterfly effect.
The way you guys were describing Happy Death Day just took me back to that movie.
Yeah.
And like, it's not terrible, but it's not great. I mean, you can sit through it. It's just not the best movie ever.
Fair enough. I started trying to sit through a movie yesterday called Ark.
Oh,
ARQ. It's a one of Netflix's first original movies.
Yes, and it shows.
And you've seen it.
I have seen it.
I haven't.
I have no record. If I remember correctly, they have this weird generator that is broken. So every time they die, it goes back. And it's kind of interesting because it's more like, because every time they come back, they're trapped, if I remember correctly. So it's more about them trying to escape rather than actively preventing a situation, which is a good idea. It's a prison film essentially, but it's just them tied in a chair with no way out. But it's, if I remember correctly, it doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't do a whole lot with the idea. Eventually, it just becomes the standard. They escape, they get X-Far, something happens, they go back.
They learn to dodge it. Yeah, Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, but without any of the stuff, it didn't have the fancy effects and action of Edge of Tomorrow. It didn't have the comedy of Death Day. It didn't have the acting of Source Code. So there was nothing really there to make it stand out. It was a nice idea, but kind of rubbish.
I think he just summed up all the movies that Netflix made.
No, that's not all of them. There's a couple.
All but maybe ones. 3. I watched a comedy Netflix. I don't know if Netflix produced it, but they're labeling. They did. Okay, but they're labeling it as a Netflix original. It's a movie called Naked, based on a foreign film of a very similar name.
We assume it's based on it.
Well, it's the same plot.
Yeah.
Down to like the details from what I was reading. But yeah, it stars Marlon, I think. One of the Wayans guys from White Chicks. The black guys from White Chicks.
Yeah.
The black guys from White Chicks.
Yeah. Have you seen White Chicks, Amy?
Yeah,
I've suffered through White Chicks.
Excellent.
White Chicks is good.
Yeah, man.
I've heard of Naked. I saw an ad for it the other day. It's like a guy's that like like a wedding or something, and he keeps waking up naked.
Yeah, he keeps waking up naked on the day of his own wedding in an elevator. And so, you know, they're not... It's not like the entire film is focused on him getting his act together. You know, it explores the concept. He explores the world around him. He meets people. It's
and he's buck naked.
Oh, yeah. It's a much more fun film than a lot of these others. I mean, Happy Death Day is probably more fun.
I think Happy Death Day is fun because of it. Like, it could have been a very grim standard slasher film.
Yeah.
Chooses to have fun with itself.
Yeah. But Naked is just, like, mischievous fun. You know, there's this one guy who, much like we want some characters to die at the start of Happy Death Day, there's a character who we really want to get punched in the face at some point, gets punched in the face towards the end when he learns the fight, like, he learns every move that the guy's about to make in a fight. And I think Edge of Tomorrow had the exact same scene, basically.
Yeah, but except on a bigger scale.
Yeah, and, yeah, the alien one, but there's also a fist fight where Tom Cruise walks up to these guys who got them in trouble, and he just ducks out of the way very smoothly.
Yeah.
But this one's, you know, it's a comedy, and it's a lot more fun. It's not a great movie.
It sounds so weird to have someone explain a Wayne's movie as fun nowadays.
Oh, yeah. I notice I haven't said the word funny, because it's not really not. It's... I mean, it, as with all comedy movies, it's got its moments, but I wouldn't say any part of it.
So it's your standard Wayne's Brothers post-scary movie too.
Yeah, basically. Worth a watch if you've got spare time, but if it
and free Netflix.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, you know, put it in the top 50 on your Netflix list.
Yeah. There's one film which is not... I always forget that I've seen it. It's not exactly like a mainstream film. It's called Primers. And it's essentially like realistic science fiction time travel.
Yeah, I read about that, Primer.
It's like super low budget. It's very weird. But again, they make a time travel machine that lets them go a little bit back in time. And they're kind of trying to decide what they're going to do with what they've created. You know, they go back and create different paths. But the whole idea behind it is it's set up to be not necessarily possible, but it's like grounded within reality. Very interesting. It assaults you with science. Kind of, not assaults you, but it's very much like we're grounded here. But yeah, it's worth a watch. I would recommend it. It's kind of boring, but it's interesting.
I couldn't find it, or I would have watched it in preparation for today.
It's not one that's around a whole lot. And then there's another one, which I started watching a little while ago, called Mind Games.
Is that the one on Netflix?
I have no idea.
There's a Mind Games.
Not Mind, Mine.
Mind Games, then no.
So these people are out in the woods and they come across their own bodies, at which point they realise that they're reliving the same day over and over again. I didn't get very far into it. I don't recall it being that great, but again, it's kind of interesting. I think the idea of their bodies being there is essentially what makes it interesting. Like, in all these other ones, it's a total reset.
Yeah.
Whereas this is them, like, you know, you can essentially go... It's like in a video game. You die, you can go get your stuff, and...
Yeah.
Which is kind of what these movies are. Video games. Die, respawn, learn a little bit. So I'm waiting for somebody to make a video game movie that utilises that.
Yeah, or even a video game out of these movies.
Yeah. I wouldn't make them out of any of these.
Or a good video game.
Yeah, let's make a good video game.
Movie.
Okay, Source Code would make an amazing video game.
Yeah.
Like, not the train thing.
Well, I think the train thing could.
Oh, possibly.
Like, you'd have, like, one part action, one part LA Noire, but, like, you've got a time limit to get as far... I feel like the time limit is what would bog you down, because in terms of physical space, like, in a movie, you can have somebody across like hundreds and hundreds of meters in a second. In real time, that's a little more difficult.
But yeah, I feel like this is a good range of movies.
So it's time to turn our eyes to the next one, being Live, Die, Repeat, and Repeat, and Repeat, and Repeat, and Repeat, and Repeat, and Repeat. Hopefully it doesn't have that many repeats.
Yeah, I have no idea how they're going to make this movie. Cause
no, like the first one is an enclosed thing.
Yeah, Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow is, they
kill.
defeat the aliens, spoilers.
No one saw, I mean, if they didn't. See, that's one thing that these movies don't do, is that they don't have the person just fail. Yeah.
And although I guess a fail would just mean resetting again. But yeah, they lose the ability, the aliens are gone. I kind of don't want to see the aliens return because we've done it.
Yeah.
But yes, do you have a good idea for how they could do it, Eamon?
I have an idea. I feel like none of these ideas are going to be particularly good because we're kind of taking what little we know and just stretching it as far as possible.
Yeah, we've already got the cast who's basically
Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt, and Doug Liman all returning. So we're not worrying about any of that stuff. We're just focusing on the plots. So, from my memory, it's been a little while since I watched this movie. The aliens came to Earth in an asteroid. The war happened, and the people get this ability to reset when they get the blood of a dead alien on them. So
the blue ones, yeah.
Yes. My thinking is, the blue ones, because that's really the only way you can describe a mess of eldritch tentacles and screaming. My thinking is, if they got the blood on them, it's kind of like embedded in them. So even if they've lost the ability to go back because they've killed the creature that gives them the ability to go back, there's still that element within their body. So my thinking is, somehow through science fiction, they acquire that element and essentially weaponize it. So this idea of soldiers being able to reset and go back and do it again has changed the face of war. Like police do it. It's kind of like an everyday thing now. Well, not an everyday thing. Like, I don't want normal everyday people having it, but in terms of, there's a hostage crisis, so each time it goes wrong, they can just reset and try again. But one day, they receive a message from somewhere saying that someone's picked up like a heat signature or something on the moon because maybe part of the asteroid broke off, landed on the moon, and the aliens are there. And they're like, well, we don't want them coming back. So they essentially send an army of people who can reset everything. And it's basically the first battle of Starship Troopers. You don't remember that. They all land, it's going well until everybody gets decimated. They just get wiped out. So it's the whole army coming back and attempting everything again, obviously led by Emily Blunt and Tom Cruise because, they know how this stuff works. They're like pioneering this technology. But yeah, I feel like they've said that they want to make it smaller and, more refined. I feel like they can't really do that after the first film unless they're like actively hunting down like one alien, like it's a Predator type deal, which could be interesting. But I would rather see guys in mech suits fighting in low gravity on the moon against an army of aliens.
Yeah.
That's it.
Works for me. It's too much of a high or weird sci-fi concept for me to really give you any questions.
I don't know how they get to the moon.
Yeah. We're really just grasping at straws with this pitch today.
Yeah. Throwing pictures at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah. Well, I'll go next, which gives you time to finish off your idea, Nick.
Mine's just going to be a mishmash of yours and one plot twist.
Sounds good.
Just why not?
My idea is that the same as Eamon's in that they've still got the ability. So, I feel like the people who once had the ability to time loop, it just starts happening again at some point. It lies dormant. These people are special, despite the blood transfusion thing from Edge of Tomorrow.
They don't take all your blood.
Yeah. So, it's in there somewhere. So both Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt are experiencing time warps at the same time, which makes things really confusing but it means that instead of Tom Cruise experiencing something, then learning something new the second time, it's all at once. So, you know, every loop is completely different because Emily Blunt's had loops during the loop, and Tom Cruise has had loops, so they've got info for each other.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how they're going to get around the sci-fi weirdness of that. Even if maybe Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt are together, Tom Cruise wakes Emily Blunt up, so that the start of Emily's day is after the start of... I don't know. I'm not a sci-fi writer for a good reason. So yeah, they keep gaining new information at rapid rates, and I don't know about what, but I think it's an interesting thing to play with. And at one point, I feel like it'd be cool if they died simultaneously, and they wake up all the way back at the military base from the first film, or maybe Emily wakes up back at the war that she had the ability in, but not in the same bodies. So something's screwed up with it. I don't know. And there's two Tom Cruises running around the military base, funnily running around because Tom Cruise's run is hilarious.
It's not a funny run, man. He's just cruising.
Oh man. But yeah, I feel like for some reason maybe Emily Blunt gets stuck in Tom's loop or something. And when Emily Blunt shoots Tom Cruise, like she did a bunch of times in the first movie, to reset, it resets both of them, but with all their memories. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything beyond that.
What's resetting them?
I don't know. Death still, I guess.
So just one day Tom Cruise is crossing the road, he gets hit by a car, wakes up.
Oh, I feel like the resets at the start would be caused by something else. Like one day they just, you know, Ground Hog.
Yeah.
They just wake up and it's the same day as yesterday.
Yeah.
And they're like, holy crap, it's happening to us again.
So is there anything to do with the aliens?
I don't know, probably.
Or are you just abandoning them?
I haven't actually focused on the plot, just the concepts, because
fair enough.
I can't even wrap my mind around how they're going to do a sequel conceptually, let alone the actual story.
It's understandable.
So yeah, have fun, Nick. Knock yourself out. Literally, if you have to.
I can try. Mine is set a couple of years after the end of the first film. Alright?
Yep.
That's a good pitch. I like
and
it.
what it is, right, is Tom Cruise is like, he's in like some form of like power or something, right? And something in the time between the end of the last movie and this movie, him and like Emily Blunt have separated, and she's doing her own thing and he's doing his own thing, and then like one day he goes to bed and wakes up and he's back in the first movie. Except this time, right, it's not he's himself, right, but like it's him, and then he sees himself in all the events of the first movie. So in this movie, he's like trying to figure out a way to get back to his life in the future and that, right?
Yeah.
And like, and the way he does it is like he's working with that Emily Blunt, but not himself. So he's trying to stay away from himself, so then like his other self doesn't find out what's going on.
Oh, so like they're intersecting the first movie and this one in a way. So the first movie, Tom Cruise is trying to seek Emily's help for his stuff, and this movie's Tom Cruise is doing his own thing.
He's helping Emily Blunt in the first movie to help himself.
Yeah.
Because he knows what's going on, so he's letting her know what's going on, so she can like help him.
Okay.
In a way.
It's kind of funny.
I feel like between the three of us,
yes,
we've come up with something.
I mean, I feel like we all know what the best way for this to go is.
No sequel.
No, I've got something
plot
even
twist.
better than that.
Yeah?
It starts, Tom Cruise gets hit by a truck, he wakes up at the start of the first movie, and he just plays the first movie.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Anyway, Nick, What else?
And then pretty much, right, he goes through, like, the whole thing, right? And then at the very end, you find out that actually he's an alien.
Oh. Nick, you're messed up, dude.
You got some serious issues.
And that he's actually in charge of, like, the aliens who are fighting them in the first movie.
What?
You've broken me.
You've broken us. Nick, if he's in charge of the aliens, why doesn't he just make it work for himself in the past?
Doug Lehman, Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt, if you happen to be listening, just disregard everything you just heard.
Yeah, all three of us, just...
Oh, no, I wanted
It was
to go
good
to
up
me.
until that point, eh?
Yeah, it was interesting. But yeah, him controlling the aliens just kind of is like getting punched in the face. It's like, why am I helping the aliens lose?
Sci-fi, that's why.
Yes, reasons. Because he wants the world to believe in Scientology, and the only way they'll do that is if they still all live.
Wow.
Okay, so new plot
this...
twist. He's L. Ron Hubbard and writing this.
Well, apparently the idea for the sequel came about because of Tom Cruise. So anything, it could just be like a 2-hour thing of him sitting there, staring at the camera, giggling to himself.
Going Scientology.
And at the end, it's just live, die, repeat.
The story of Scientology.
It's bizarre, it's confusing, nobody really understands quite why it's happening. Kind of like this sequel.
I feel like this sequel should end really badly. Like,
this sequel,
like a horror ending, like a Black Mirror episode.
Mine was perfect then.
I feel like this sequel should end so there's no room for another sequel. Like they destroy Earth or something.
But I don't know what's coming, so it could be really good.
Could be really good. Could be the first one. Like, that was the same thing with the first one. When it came out, people were like, whatever. Nobody really saw it. It failed at the box office. It's actually a really good film.
Yeah.
So who knows? We could get a repeat of the first.
End like mine does.
If it ends like that, I'll be thoroughly disappointed in myself.
And I will be calling them up to
You
ask
stole my idea. That was certainly
first, it's on a podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Nick.
We'll see you shortly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stay tuned to find out how Mission Impossible can be made less impossible by repeat attempts.
God damn it, it's another cinematic universe.
The Tom Cruise Cinematic Universe.
The TCCU.